One automaker cuts back.
Choosing Hoosiers for a $500 million plant with 1,500 new jobs. Good evening. Some big news in just hours for the state of Indiana.
It is a huge economic boost and a big political victory for the Daniels administration. Indiana and 4 other Midwestern states were in the running for the new Honda North American production plant. But tonight, it appears that Greensburg in Decatur County won as the new site. The Night Beat's Kevin Rader begins our team coverage on what it means.
Honda has already collected options on land near Greensburg, paying 70% more than assessed value and offering a $6,000 bonus for landowners who agreed to sell regardless of whether the land would be used or not. So the groundwork was clearly laid when the Columbus Dispatch newspaper broke the story of Honda's decision to spurn Ohio and Illinois in favor of Indiana.
It's a new labor force. It's also a geographic area in a town, in a county. They're very much what Honda looks for, which is a small, rural, agrarian, somewhat manufactured, with somewhat of a manufacturing focus that is within a short drive of major population areas.
The next issue to be resolved is, would Governor Mitch Daniels make it back from his Asian trip in time for Wednesday morning's announcement? Well, that would be resolved minutes after Honda announced its 10:30 Wednesday morning news conference, when Press Secretary Jane Jankowski said the governor had actually left Asia early and will be back in plenty of time for the announcement.
The governor met with a number of businesses during that trip, touting investment in Indiana.
He's been in Japan for the last 10 days. He was in Korea for a couple of days. He's been talking about jobs, and now he's delivering jobs in a big way. So I think it's a very big win for the governor. Whether it translates to other races and to particularly the House of Representatives, really hard to tell.
Wednesday morning, Honda is expected to announce it will locate its 6th North American assembly plant in the state. That means a $400 million investment in Indiana with a plant that will turn out 200,000 cars a year when it opens in 2008.
Honda has called its news conference for 10:30 tomorrow morning at the Greensburg Community Learning Center to announce its decision. And if that isn't enough, the governor will also be taking a $3.8 billion payment for leasing the Indiana Toll Road on Thursday. Kevin Rader, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
Now, Greensburg is a small rural town of about 10,000 people. It's the type of place Honda likes to build its huge production plants. Our Night Beat reporter David McAnally joins us now live tonight in Greensburg as the town continues to talk about this very good news. David.
Andrea, here downtown, you can sum up the reaction in 3 words: jobs, jobs, jobs. On Greensburg's Courthouse Square, at Story's Restaurant, the Honda Story is on the menu.
I've lived in Greensburg for about 50 years now. This is probably the biggest business news that's hit Greensburg.
Diners here learned Honda's to pour nearly $500 million into a new auto plant outside town, creating 1,500 jobs in what's now farmland. And that should pour lots of cash back into the economy.
I know a lot of people don't have jobs.
Where I work, there's somebody coming in just constantly looking for a job.
Oh, new information. Police have identified a body found on the city's east side.
And a live look at radar shows mainly clear skies over Indiana, but what about the likelihood of some pop-up storms? We'll have the latest on the forecast straight ahead on Eyewitness News at noon.
From Indiana's news leader, this is Channel 13 Eyewitness News at noon.
I am pleased to announce that we will establish in Indiana a new automobile manufacturing plant to begin production in fall 2008.
4 states competed for the new $400 million Honda assembly plant, but Indiana is the winner. Good afternoon and welcome to Eyewitness News at noon. I'm Bruce Kopp in for Scott Swan.
And I'm Julia Moffat. It is a win that means more jobs and a huge economic boost for the state and for the city of Greensburg, the site of that new Honda plant. Eyewitness News reporter Roger Harvey begins our team coverage of this big announcement.
Julia, to say this is a big deal is really an understatement, especially when you consider the fact that the Greensburg Daily News has already come out with the big story of the day. Instead of home sweet home, it's home sweet Honda here on the front page. We're talking about ultimately up to 2,000 jobs coming to this area here in Decatur County. And the location was described this morning as being northwest of the Greensburg downtown area. And we have some pictures from Chopper 13 showing some of that site. We're looking at roughly 1,700 acres that will be used used, and obviously several landowners had to come together and agree to sell that property to make this happen. We're looking at roughly 200,000 cars that will be produced here every year. The construction is expected to begin this fall, completed in 2008 for that production. Honda said today that they're looking at $550 million of investment here in this community to help make this plant come online. This will be the 6th automotive plant for Honda here in North America.
We believe that the great state of Indiana has what we need to continue this success: an outstanding community of people, excellent transportation systems, and the necessary infrastructure to support industry. This is also an ideal location in the Midwest.
And Honda is the sort of company we welcome with open arms. A company which takes enormous and rightful pride in its products, which treats its people, its associates impeccably, which cares about its neighbors, which reveres the environment.
Having Honda come into Greensburg is probably one of the wildest dreams that I ever had. But if you keep on plugging, then something will happen.
The mayor there of Greensburg basically saying in the news conference, ultimately, Honda is coming to town. Coming up tonight at 6 on Eyewitness News, we'll have more on the announcement, and we'll also you'll also be able to hear from the president and CEO of Honda North America. I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one interview with him, and he'll talk about his impressions of Indiana. Coming up here in just a few minutes, political reporter Kevin Rader will have an interview with Governor Mitch Daniels. He'll be joining us live to talk about this announcement. For now, I'm Roger Harvey reporting live in Greensburg, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Much more ahead, Roger. Thank you.
Well, Bruce, it's an announcement that comes as good news to a community that, like so many others, desperately needs jobs. Eyewitness News reporter Alex Sands continues our coverage in Greensburg.
On the streets of Greensburg, there is a growing hope that Honda's investment will reverse recent economic declines. Unemployment here tops 5%. It is a city whose people are hungry for work.
I was very happy. I thought it'd be very good for the economy of the area.
With a staggering $400 million investment from the car giant, the new plant means upwards of 1,500 jobs for Decatur County. More could come down the road.
Well, you know, it's the end of the rainbow, you know.
Greensburg's mayor is one of the many reveling at the prospect.
We did a lot of work, background work, and at this point we are ready for them, and so consequently everything looks good, and so I'm excited about the way things are.
By choosing Greensburg, Indiana beat out neighboring Ohio for what some say is a new wave of foreign investment. A clear sign the tide here is starting to change.
I think it's a pretty big deal because it'll help this area a lot, unemployment, things like that.
It is a big deal. Alex Sands, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
And Alex, like you point out, a big boost for that economy. Again, the plant means 1,500 new jobs, expected to pay an average of $24 an hour. Bruce?
Well, it's also big news for the state of Indiana. Governor Mitch Daniels cut short his trip to Asia to return for the big announcement. Eyewitness News political reporter Kevin Rader is live with the governor there in Greensburg with more on all of this. Kevin?
Governor Mitch Daniels is standing here with me live. Governor, I'm sure they're going to save you a sandwich today. Let's talk a little bit, first of all, about cutting your trip short. You heard a couple of days ago and came right back from Asia. What did you hear, and when did you hear it?
Well, you know what the news was. It was a few days ago, and I'm happy to say I didn't have to cut anything really from the trip. We finished the last event, and then the rest of the group was stayed overnight and left in the morning. I just rather quietly went straight to the airport and beat them back by better part of a day. But no, didn't miss any official business, but I wouldn't miss this either.
Could this have worked out any better for you timing-wise at the end of the Asia trip to come back and make this announcement? It really couldn't have.
Well, it is, I think, probably fortuitous in a way. I don't think there are too many people who misunderstand that our ability to compete for investment from abroad, to in-source jobs and bring dollars back has really got to be a part of our economic strategy and future. But if anybody hadn't quite got that memo, watching the success of the trip and then seeing this spectacular result today should help them see it.
You made an interesting point in there when you talked about the incentives, 40 million, about 85 million, and then with 55 million more for future growth. But you said the company wasn't concerned about that.
It's one of the things, and there are a lot of things I admire about this company, but it was very incidental. They were very focused on the basic business case and made it easy to do business with them. Transportation, which we always stress, location and infrastructure, and the low cost that Indiana had to offer. And then at the end of that, we talked about training dollars and this sort of thing. But it was very secondary and easy to deal with.
Governor, I know, let's turn this a little bit to political. You said in there Indiana's comeback. This means Indiana's comeback's actually underway. You've been working hard. Does this mean the rubber's finally meeting the road and you're going to see some results of that work?
Well, I wouldn't say finally. Again, we've had more announcements of, at any level you pick, 250 jobs and over, 500 jobs and over. More of those announcements in the last 18 months than the previous 5 years. So, yeah, something's going on. This happens to be the latest and the single biggest at 2,000 jobs, but it's hardly an isolated event. And we're going to have to do it over and over, as I always mention. But you bet things are happening in Indiana, and the comeback's underway.
Politically, the timing of this, last question here, with the obviously the elections coming up in November for the House, think candidates here in the South can take this around here and campaign?
I don't know. I haven't thought much about that. They ought to be able to, I guess. Again, we announced 1,200 jobs at Jeff Boat right down the river at Jeffersonville just a couple weeks ago. So there's a lot of strength in this part of Indiana, but same's true everywhere else. And I just hope all Hoosiers can celebrate it and politics take care of itself.
You like hats? You like the one you're wearing right now?
Today it's my favorite hat, and probably for a while to come.
Governor Daniels, thank you very much. I know he wants to get inside. Governor Mitch Daniels just back from his trip to Asia to deliver some very good news to the state of Indiana. Reporting live, Kevin Rader, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
All right, Kevin,
announcement. Right now behind me, Honda executives along with members of the community are having lunch together and talking about the future for this community and what this Honda facility will mean to this part of Indiana. Earlier today, we heard some of the numbers in terms of what exactly is at stake here. A 1,700-acre site, ultimately 2,000 jobs that will be created at that facility once the completion of the project takes place, and ultimately 200,000 cars a year produced right here in Greensburg. Governor Mitch Daniels talked about how during his years as governor, during his time as governor, and also on the campaign trail, about how he heard from people in this part of southeastern Indiana talk about how they wanted more jobs, they wanted an economic boom to this area, and he said today that Honda was going to be that dream for them.
Just down the road from here, there's a town called Milan, which holds a special place in the hearts of every Hoosier, and particularly in mine. I talked a lot about it. I've been there many times. I said that Milan stood for more than basketball. It stood for the Indiana ethic that says that a kid from anywhere who works hard, plays by the rules, learns to play as a member of a team can do anything. And a few months ago, an enterprising reporter went back to Milan and asked them, how are things going? And people said they appreciated the visits. They appreciated the attention. What they really needed was some jobs. So to everybody in Milan and Sunman and Osgood and Cross Plains and Brookville and everywhere in this fabulous region of our state, today's for you.
Construction on this Honda plant. The construction on this Honda plant will begin this fall. Coming up tonight at 5 and 6, we'll have more on the announcement and what it'll mean to this part of Indiana. I'm Roger Harvey reporting live in Greensburg, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks. And for more on this still developing story, we go to Bruce now. Bruce.
Julia, well, the closing of the Honda deal on the heels of his Asian trip signify two of the greatest accomplishments of the Daniels administration. What kind of political mileage does this provide the governor? Well, with us to talk about some of the implications are our political analysts. On the Republican side, Peter Rusthoven, and Democratic analyst Robin Winston. Peter, let's start with you. The governor has been taking heat for the Indiana Toll Road and daylight saving time. Does this issue provide some kind of, does the Honda deal provide some kind of rebound for the governor?
Well, the Honda deal is huge. It's 1,500 jobs, $24 an hour is the average. They're manufacturing jobs. We beat out Ohio for it. Of course it's huge. I think in any administration, how you perform on the economy is about as important as it gets. And in any administration, if there are other issues that are controversial and you do something very, very big on the jobs front, of course it's going to help you across the board.
How about you, Robin? How big a deal is this?
This is huge for Hoosiers. I mean, jobs are not an economic development issue for one party or another. This is the result of groundwork being laid by Evan, by Frank O'Bannon, and by Joe Kernan. I mean, it's really indicative of the bipartisan nature of what we were doing, that on the final weekend of his life, Frank O'Bannon was in Chicago at a Japanese-American trade meeting, trying to lay a groundwork, establish better relations with Japan. So I think this is the fruition of those efforts.
Now, the timing of all of this seems too good for the governor. He returns early from the Asian trip. There's the Honda announcement, and then the signing of the lease for the Indiana Toll Road. Is this good luck or good planning?
Well, I think good luck is said as the residue of good design. Mitch Daniels is a very thoughtful guy, a very smart guy who works hard at what he's doing. I concede with Robin that it has been a bipartisan effort over the years to try and develop more jobs in Indiana, but it's also true that the governor who gets them is the guy who will be on the news and who will get the credit for them, and rightly so.
Are you concerned that others won't get credit for this?
I'm not worried about the credit. There are so many other issues. You've got a toll road, time change, tax increases, teacher layoffs. There are so many other things that are going to be kitchen table, not boardroom table issues, that the voters that come around on November 7th are going to have a lot of things to talk about.
1,500 jobs is pre-kitchen table.
Yeah.
Well,
Robin does that.
And does this change the landscape of the debate? I mean, do other issues, do they go away for some time? I mean, are there other issues that will not likely be debated that are still of great concern?
For today, the issue is that we're providing jobs for Hoosiers as a result of a tremendous effort on everyone's part. And that issue is the #1 issue today.
I think that even as other issues come back up, this is now part of the discussion and an unqualified positive part of the discussion. It's huge for the governor. It's huge for the state. Robin knows that, and he's had some announcements on his side when his people were in the governor's office. So this is one for us.
All right, agree on that. Welcome news all the way around.
Great.
Peter Rustoven, Robin Winston, thank you very much for being with us. By the way, we will have much more coverage of the big announcement today, plus more reaction. That's coming up on Eyewitness News beginning at 5 o'clock. Julia?